Sponsored by Dennis J. Courtney, M.D., Director of the Courtney Medical Group, located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray, Pennsylvania. For more information or to make an appointment, call 724-942-3002. That's 724-942-3002 for Dennis J. Courtney, M.D.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to AIM Impact on Your Health. AIM Impact on Your Health, where every day our goal is to have you learn at least one thing to help you live better and longer. AIM Impact on Your Health, it's heard every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney, and I'm with you each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9. AIM Impact on Your Health, where each day you'll find current medical news, knowledgeable guests, fascinating health topics, and where we do encourage you to call in and join in. Today, we brought it to you first time last month, the issue, scary, dicey, difficult to approach, especially if we have any elderly parents or grandparents that we are watching go through phases of dementia, memory loss, Alzheimer's, and the list goes on and on and on for the synonyms. But the real fear is, geez, what are we going to do about ourselves? And is there anything to do about how to slow down, stop, pack up, or prevent dementia or organic brain syndrome, another syndrome, from taking place? Well, we got our initial dose of what you can do about it. It's circled around a product called Prevagen. We found its inventor and spoke to him last month. We're bringing him back to you today. His name is Mr. Mark Underwood. Hope you enjoy a revisit with Mark. We'll get into this issue more and more and more today. If, in fact, during our discussion with Mr. Underwood, you want to call in to ask a question or make a comment, that number will always be, as it always is, 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262. So, dementia is the topic again, but what to do about it so as to prevent it, and if it's already occurring, what do you do to back it up? Well, I didn't think there was much you could do at all. Turns out there's a whole bunch you could do. You're going to want to stay tuned for us today. Now, calendar-wise, looking off into the rest of the month, we're going to have, on Friday, I want to bring to you interesting thing. A lot of patients that I see have high blood pressure. They're on blood pressure medicines. Others just on the cusp of sort of borderline blood pressure where they're trying like the dickens to prevent ever from having to go on blood pressure meds, and we will certainly be able to help in that regard. But with respect to blood pressure, there is a natural occurring ACE inhibitor. Now, I want to talk a little bit in code, but ACE inhibitors are one of the ways that the medical profession has for trying to decrease your blood pressure. Things like lisinopril, if it has PRIL on the end of it, it is an ACE inhibitor. You may be on one of those, but there's a naturally occurring one. We'll talk about on Friday. You don't want to miss talking about your blood pressure and how to actually lower it by taking a natural substance. And on Monday, she comes back. I'm talking, of course, about Deborah Ray. She kicked everything off about 8 months ago, coming to us and bringing a message that she was very much putting her reputation behind. That was the message of Fruit of the Spirit. Since then, we hear her give her commercial spots on my show each and every day that I do it. And Fruit of the Spirit is something I've had in my office since she brought it to me, probably strictly on the basis of her full support and reputation that was behind the product. Well, she's going to come back on Monday with us, talking about a book that she's written in collaboration with two other individuals, Deborah Ray, Aida Reyes, and John Young. The other two are physicians. Deborah Ray, well, you know, she knows it all, and she's a great intellect as well as a compassionate way of describing it to you. The book is called Harmony, and we got hundreds of copies here in the office. Stop by; we'll give you a free copy. Also give you a swig of the Fruit of the Spirit, and she's going to be with us on Monday. Deborah Ray talking about her new book called Harmony. Speaking of Fruit of the Spirit, if you have a mind to want to order some, maybe if you've tasted it in our office, or you just say, well, that's just, it's geographically out of the question. I can't make it all the way down to the South Hills. But here's what you can do. You can call up and order the stuff at Fruit of the Spirit at 800-442-3793. That's 800-442-3793. Or you can go to the website at fruitspirit.net. That's fruitspirit.net. Hope you enjoyed our show on Wednesday, by the way. I thought it was pretty fascinating that there are agencies out there that are able to provide you help for the simplest of things that you wouldn't even consider that was possible to get that help for. Turns out with the group we have, Ms. Kathleen Oberst with us on Wednesday talking about a company called Home Instead, and the list was just endless in terms of what are those things that you can actually get some help for, not for your elderly parent, but maybe even just for you. You got to go somewhere, you got to do something, and you've got obligations to meet around the home. Well, I suggest that you dial up Home Instead. You can call us for the number. Well, no, I'll give you a number right now, and I'll give you the Bethel Park number, 412-276-2400. Thought I'd just slip that one in. Okay. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to get right at it today. We're going to be talking to Mr. Mark Underwood. If you've got memory issues and you're concerned about the advancing potential of organic brain syndrome or Alzheimer's, and you want to do something about it, and you want to pay particular close attention today, as we described, what was learned from a jellyfish and then brought to the market for human consumption by Mr. Mark Underwood. We have his inventor, his founder, with us back today, talking about this product called Prevagen, which we now carry in the office, and we'll tell you how to be able to get all of that stuff when we return. We take a short break now and return with Mr. Mark Underwood.
Courtney.
This is Dennis J. Courtney, MD. Have you become confused about how best to manage your health? It's no wonder. It seems that every time you turn on the television or radio, another expert has yet another suggestion for you to follow that seems to be reasonable enough, but no matter how dutifully you follow the instruction, it just doesn't quite produce the results that you are looking for. If this confusion sounds familiar to you, give us a call at the Center for Complementary Health, where we'll make some sense of the confusion based on a blending of traditional and alternative medicine that we've been perfecting over the last 7 years. We offer metabolic nutrition testing, immune system repair, natural hormone replacement therapy, chelation therapy, cutting-edge allergy correction, and a host of other safe and effective alternative therapies.
Dennis J. Courtney, MD, is located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray. Phone 724-942-3002.
Want to help your family eat healthier? Instead of learning to disguise tofu in wondrous ways, how about some real nutritional power? If your family has the typical American palate for fries, pizza, and burgers, giving your family the blessing of good nutrition is a struggle. Fruit of the Spirit is the answer for your family's nutritional needs. Fruit of the Spirit is an all-natural, whole fruit puree made from fresh fruits native to the Holy Land with alkalizing minerals. Fruit of the Spirit was 5 years in the formulation, the work of a team of top nutritional experts with independent science to confirm its antioxidant power. 1 ounce a day provides the equivalent of 5 servings of fruits and minerals. Fruit of the Spirit is convenient, affordable, and delicious. Even your picky family will sing the praises of Fruit of the Spirit. Give your loved ones the blessing of good nutrition. Call 1-800-442-3793 for a special promotional offer. Fruit of the Spirit, a blessing for your good health. That's 1-800-442-3793. Call them now, 1-800-442-3793.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to AM Impact on Your Health. Here in this Wednesday morning version of the show, a little bit of gloominess outside. I'm always looking right out of good large windows, so I always give you the weather report as I see it here. But today we're going to be talking with a gentleman we introduced to you last month. His name is Mr. Mark Underwood. He's a neuroscience researcher. co-founder and president of Quincy Bioscience in Madison, Wisconsin. He's responsible for researching the calcium-binding protein found in, of all things, jellyfish, and developing it for use as a calcium regulator in human nervous system. Why would you want to do that? Well, we're going to find out why in just a minute, and then we're going to find out how you maybe can do something about your forgetfulness. Certainly, if there's anybody in your family that has such an issue, you may want to bring it to them too, a product called Prevagen, which we launched and introduced last month also. So we welcome him now. We say good morning and welcome back, Mark, and nice to hear your voice again.
Good morning, Dr. Courtney.
Hey, we did just kick off our relationship last month, and we had our phone and ringing off the hook. I understand yours did too out there because people were really interested in this topic. You can understand why, of course, but why don't you set the stage for us again with this condition, this forgetfulness issue, this condition of either called organic brain syndrome, Alzheimer's, and the list goes on and on. It is the basic unifying fear that we all have, yet without what we thought to be nothing to do about it, we felt helpless. Bring that all together to us in terms of how you discovered what you did and how the feeling of helplessness actually doesn't need to be the feeling at all.
Well, losing our memories is a part of life, and it's a part of the aging process that is very difficult to deal with. Certainly, as we grow older, we all start to see a little bit of cognitive change, certainly. Although our intelligence rises and our things like our executive function continue to get better as we grow older, we have a retrieval of information that's somewhat slowed down. The physiological changes are what we study here at Quincy Bioscience, and I'm the president of that company. Our company looks at how the brain cells change as we grow older, and we also look to see how we might be able to change that rate of decline. Every single brain cell is responsible, has its own individual responsibility in the brain, and if we can help keep our brain cells all safer, keep them protected, keep them communicating with one another, generally speaking, we help to protect more of our cognitive function. So as we grow older, the brain cells become more susceptible to death or to injury, and that's why memory problems start to persist. Generally speaking, we're talking about them starting around the age of 40. Now, memory loss can happen for one of several different reasons. Certainly, your aging process alone contributes to some memory loss. But there's also memory loss that can come from traumatic brain injuries like forced concussions or car accidents. It can come from disease processes like an Alzheimer's or Parkinson's. Come from pesticide exposure, like things that if you're exposed to pesticides as a young person or even lead or mercury. All those different types of factors contribute to the memory loss that we see as we grow older. Those are actually joined together in terms of a common mechanism of what kills the brain cells. That has to do with calcium regulation inside the brain and a very important type of regulating protein called a calcium binding protein. Our bodies normally make this protein when we're young, up until about the age of 40. But after then, well, our brain doesn't keep really enough of the proteins being manufactured to keep our brain cells protected. And that's why we start to see the memory start to fade after age 40. So in our company, we researched to find a replacement for these proteins, which we've discovered in a jellyfish. And this jellyfish protein is an adequate replacement to help protect our brain cells, keep them alive longer so that our brain literally works better as we grow older.
Well, now, this process of the calcification, which you reduced, I think, which came out in our last conversation, is that just about all cell death is caused, not just the brain, but just about every cell you could name. One of the final phases before cell death occurs is the mechanism of calcium, which then invades the cell, and once it does, we're supposed to be keeping it out of the cell. Once it gets inside that cell will die. Do I have the mechanism down correct?
That's exactly. It's called apoptotic cell death.
Okay.
And this type of death is the way that all cells in the body, and not just the human body, we're talking about most of all biological organisms, happen to die. The cells die during this process. This last bout of calcium accumulating in the cell, and it doesn't necessarily have to completely calcify it or make it rock hard. It's imagine a fluid, a supersaturated fluid full of calcium. The calcium overexcites the cell, and at some point in time, it literally will burn out the cell.
So that mechanism is common to all cells that, in a natural way, apoptosis really being a natural cell death that all cells go through. But in the case of memory, in the case of the brain, you were able to identify the potential of being able to reverse these memory issues by using we call a calcium-binding protein found in jellyfish. Well, why? How'd you find it in the jellyfish, and then how did you then make the next big jump to be able to give it to humans to see if it would work there?
Well, I can't take the credit for finding the jellyfish. That was done back in the 60s.
Okay.
A group of researchers were very interested in a species of jellyfish that was found in the Puget Sound region of Washington State. And these researchers were interested in jellyfish because they actually had the property that they were luminescent. They would glow in the dark. And when you look at the jellyfish to sort of figure out, that's what they did, they wanted to figure out why these jellyfish would glow in the dark. As they did it, they discovered that it was there's a protein responsible for that action, which is this calcium-binding protein. So it's back in the 1960s. This protein would only bind with calcium and was able to keep the jellyfish nervous system intact and provide several functions. Of course, the glow-in-the-dark feature was the novelty they were interested in. Well, this type of biochemistry is very important. And what they uncovered as they explored the jellyfish was very significant in terms of scientific terms. So much so that in the year 2008, just 2 years ago, they won the Nobel Prize for Chemistry for this discovery. So this is really quite an affiliation, having a Nobel Prize affiliated with this jellyfish as a protein. Now, back in the mid-90s is when I started being interested in the same protein. I came across some research that showed that jellyfish stings could cause short-term symptoms in people that were very similar to multiple sclerosis. And sort of triggered some thoughts in myself. My mom has multiple sclerosis, hence my interest in the topic. And these jellyfish, what was in them that kept them protected from getting MS or getting those types of symptoms, having that happen in their own simple nervous system, but yet they could inflict it into a person. And so, to make a long story short, it is this calcium-binding protein that provides that protection of the jellyfish. I thought it might be able to be protective in the human condition. And so that's where the research began 15 years ago to see if this jellyfish protein could indeed help to protect brain cells. And I guess I'll even make a longer story short, it does.
It absolutely does, huh? So this calcium-binding protein, do we innately have it and then lose the ability to make it as we age? Is that it?
That's right. You have it right now being made on your own in your own brain, Dr. Courtney. But unfortunately, you make less of it today than you did 5 years ago. No matter how old you are, that's a true statement. You make less and less of it as you grow older, and that's what causes the brain to age. It's what causes the brain to slow down. It's what causes us to have, senior moments. This is the physiological process, and the change that's happening that occurs. And that happens, even with the first time you lose your car keys. It also is the process that's responsible for brain cell death in much more severe cases of things like Alzheimer's or Parkinson's or other neurodegenerative conditions.
Okay, so the final question on the mechanism here is that I've understood the mechanism to be, and I know I brought this up at our last discussion, but for those new ones who may be listening to us right now, the pathophysiology that we're all made aware of, in the case of Alzheimer's, is an accumulation of a plaque that gets deposited within the vasculature of the brain and nervous system, which is comprised of something called amyloid. It's a protein, amyloid beta, right, okay. So if that's the mechanism behind the disease, and I believe it to be so, how is it then that the calcium-binding protein that you've now described that is effective, how does it work within that mechanism of that plaque? How do the two issues merge in terms of being able to explain how you can reverse memory loss?
Well, the plaques actually will stick to the outside of the cell membrane.
Okay.
And as they stick to the outside of the cell membrane, they actually cause very small holes in that cell membrane, which allows calcium to leak into the cell. Okay?
Okay.
With an Alzheimer's patient, not only do you have the depletion of these calcium-binding proteins, but you also have an elevation in the internal calcium concentration. So you can sort of imagine one thing is depleting, one thing is rising, and it's creating a big gap in that cell, a functional gap. with the greater levels of calcium and the lower levels of these proteins, that's what makes Alzheimer's twice as bad, or more times as bad, as just the regular aging process where we're simply losing the protein. So that's what makes Alzheimer's so devastating, is that the loss of brain cells therefore happens much more rapidly. The amyloid beta is accumulating, causing holes in the cell membrane. The calcium levels are rising faster than normal. The calcium-binding proteins are no longer there to protect the cell, and you start to see the neurodegenerative processes start. So that's sort of in a nutshell how calcium is tied to this amyloid beta fragment. And there are certainly other contributing factors that lead to cell loss in Alzheimer's patients too, but amyloid beta is one of the more commonly referred to mechanisms.
And as such, too, would it be true to say that in those pharmaceutical companies trying to find out how they can get into this market, how they can actually cash in on this terrible process, they're looking at trying to make a Drano for the plaque, and they're not paying attention to the calcium issue? Because it seems like that's what you would do. You would say, how can I lessen the plaque, when in fact you go, hey, I'm not so much worried about the plaque, I'm worried about the cell death. All those holes lets the calcium in, and that's the mechanism that we're going to take, and you get responses by utilizing your supplement, utilizing your product, so that the calcium binding occurs outside the cell, correct?
Well, we're interested in the calcium binding technically that happens inside the cell.
Okay.
But we are, we're not able to address the accumulation of these plaques with our technology. But tying it together, we do believe the core problem with neurodegenerative diseases is this calcium issue. And that's how we're able to address it. So sort of take another step back, it doesn't matter if you have plaques or tangles. It doesn't matter if you had a concussion, which elevates your calcium levels. It doesn't matter if you've had lead or mercury exposure, which elevates your calcium levels. By replacing the buffering protein, we can get more capacity to provide more protection for the brain cells, and as a result, we can start to resolve different types of memory issues or cognitive issues. When we talk about protecting brain cells, of course, they're commonly referred to as being responsible for your memories, but your brain cells control your immune system, your heart rate, sleep patterns, your hormonal production. I mean, you name it. So when we talk about protecting brain cells, it's much more than something that would even just apply to a singular disease like Alzheimer's. We're talking about a fundamental protective step that keeps the brain, more alive, healthier, and better capable of making all the decisions that your body needs it to make to control your health. So while memory issues are certainly a focal point of what people are talking about and listening to, age-related chronic disorders are numerous, and we want to be able to help keep the brain protected and keep it working better so that all aspects of our health that are at a loss as we grow older can be prevented to some extent or pushed back.
Gotcha. Now, another scary element to this has to do really specifically with an age group of people. They're called baby boomers, and many of them listen to this show, and because there's so many of us, and they're entering this real shaky period of their lives where, yes, they've seen the devastating consequences of Alzheimer's and organic brain syndrome in their own family, maybe. Tell us a little bit about how this disease is going to be running so rampant here in the up-and-coming near future, based sheerly on the numbers of people entering this older age category.
Well, right now, specifically, if you look at Alzheimer's disease, you're talking about 5.3 million people in the United States that have it. That number increases by about 500,000 every year. And so as baby boomers start to crest their age, we're going to see a doubling of the number of Alzheimer's patients in the next 8 to 10 years. Actually, to accelerate. And this is certainly very burdensome. I mean, you certainly don't have to think about having Alzheimer's to need this type of protection. But the memory loss problem, the impact on our economy, the impact on our families, is very significant for a lot of different reasons. People's retirement age, because of the economy, has probably gotten older. So you're going to have to use your brain longer. You're going to have to invest in its well-being. Otherwise, you're going to have a hard time literally just surviving, even out in the workplace. There's more competition in the workplace. There's fewer jobs. And more of those jobs are certainly, I guess you could say, mentally intense. My dad used to always say, you either have a strong back or a strong mind. Well, today's economy means that most of us need to have a strong mind for sure. A strong back may be helpful.
All right, so I think in terms of the general category of Alzheimer's, it touched all of the mechanisms that we needed to talk about to find out how you can intervene. But then comes along you looking at research done out of the 60s and maybe a little afterwards. This jellyfish thing, okay, is fascinating to me. How the luminescence of the jellyfish led you to make a conclusion that maybe this is the avenue to pursue. By the way, I don't see anybody else in the pharmaceutical world, I don't see anybody else in the supplement world taking such an approach.
We have patents on our technology, they can't.
So they can't. All right, very good. And so this is like the one-of-a-kind kind of a product that actually you went and tested. Let's talk a bit about that testing, because I think I'm always interested to find when science backs up the claims made by people that come on this show, and you've got that science. And let's talk about the science behind it.
Sort of an interesting angle you take towards it. We're a biotechnology company, so all we do is science. All we do is research. By our nature, we look to find solutions to problems. So when this particular opportunity came up to look, and of course I started this as an academic pursuit 15 years ago. It later turned into, I guess you could say, after it proved it could work, then it became something that was commercializable, something that we could provide for people. And we of course started with our animal research, working to see if this jellyfish protein was given to animals in a similar way the body makes, because these animals also make their own calcium binding proteins, what type of protection could it offer? Would it offer any protection? We went through a series of experiments for several years, demonstrating how when animals were given essentially stroke events that should normally kill many or most of the brain cells, how effective was this jellyfish protein in keeping those brain cells alive longer. And in general terms, we found about a 50% protective effect. 50% more of the cells were living through the event that should have killed all the brain cells. They were given this jellyfish protein to protect the brain. And that's quite a significant number. I have to tell you that our own internal goals were set much lower than 50%. But we were excited to see that. We're excited to see the change that made. And we, of course, continue to do that in different aged animals. We found that the protective effect was actually more pronounced when the animals we tested were older. So we had a set of experiments for young, healthy, college-age animals. And then we tested it in older retirement-age animals. And the differences seen there were quite pronounced. There was a more significant protective effect in the older animals because they had a greater need for this calcium balance.
And more vulnerable, yeah.
They were more vulnerable, therefore they were more protected. So that was part of the first series of experiments. Then also we went to say, okay, if they were, how did this work in terms of pre-treatment? If we had animals that were pre-treated with this jellyfish protein, how did the results change for people that were treated after the incident? So first it was tested as a preventative, and then it was tested as a recovery device. We actually saw more protection after an event. After something had come to assault the brain and to damage the brain, we were able to demonstrate that by adding this jellyfish protein. It was indeed still protective, but specifically it was more neuroprotective. It works better after the fact. So again, strong evidence to show that if you've already had a traumatic brain injury, you've already had a concussion, a stroke, something, anything, and the brain's already been damaged to a certain extent, you're able to get more of a protective effect by adding this protein to the mix than even if you had done it before. And so we're talking about greater than 50%. So that's a little bit of a nutshell of how we were able to show this protein functioning. And literally, you can go and we can count the brain cells. We can tell you how many lived and how many died. I mean, it's very quantitative.
Okay, let's do this, Mark. Let's take a short break. When we come back, let's start calling what we're using a name of a product called Prevagen, and the calcium binding protein issue now turns into a commercialized, non-prescription substance called Prevagen, that you then did a lot of work on. You're still doing that work today, and how it affects people who purchase it, take this product on a daily basis. Love to hear what the results are. Do you mind? We'll come back in a minute and do that.
Sounds great.
Okay, folks, you're with him. Mr. Mark Underwood, he found that thing, he invented this stuff, and he's here to talk about how you can stave off memory loss in yourself and in your loved ones. Be back in a moment with Mr. Mark Underwood.
Have you been to the... That's 1-800-442-3793 for your good health. Call them now, 1-800-442-3793.
This is Dennis J. Courtney, MD. Have you become confused about how best to manage your health? It's no wonder. It seems that every time you turn on the television or radio, another expert has yet another suggestion for you to follow that seems to be reasonable enough, but no matter how dutifully you follow the instructions, it just doesn't quite produce the results that you were looking for. If this confusion sounds familiar to you, give us a call at the Center for Complementary Health, where we'll make some sense of the confusion based on a blending of traditional and alternative medicine that we've been perfecting over the last 7 years. We offer metabolic nutrition testing, immune system repair, natural hormone replacement therapy, chelation therapy, cutting-edge allergy correction, and a host of other safe and effective alternative therapies.
Dennis J. Courtney, MD, is located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray. Phone 724-942-3002.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back once again to AM Impact on Your Health on this Wednesday morning, talking about memory, loss of memory, how you can prevent it, and if it's already occurring, how you can back it up. Now, that's pretty nice to be able to take charge of a situation where I think you felt pretty helpless with up until now. The product, well, coming from a jellyfish. They named it Prevagen. We're going to find out its inventor right now is still with us, Mr. Mark Underwood. Are you still there, my friend?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so so what you learned in the testing and leading up said, hey, we can make a substance that people can take safely, and we're going to call it, I love the name, Prevagen. Well, maybe you can tell me how you came up with that. And now you've been out and you've had the product out in the public for I don't know how long, and the feedback that you're getting and the research that you've done with this is what I'm interested in hearing from you now. So why don't you take it for a moment and bring us up to speed?
Well, Prevagen was the way that we could deliver this technology after we had proven that the protein worked well and they will protect brain cells and so forth. It becomes a natural next step to be able to help provide it for people. And so Prevagen as a supplement has been in the marketplace for just over 2.5 years. We've grown to be carried in over 6,000 stores across the country. Everything from local health food stores to variety pharmacies and everything in between. Prevagen has become very popular. It's helped hundreds of thousands of people with their brain health issues. So over the course of that time, we've certainly heard many different stories of how well Prevagen works. Of course, in addition to the anecdotes, we've conducted clinical trials, double-blind, placebo-controlled trials to assess how well Prevagen works in terms of helping your memory and other cognitive processes. And generally speaking, the results are available on our website at Prevagen.com. But to summarize them, the majority of people within 30 days seeing a benefit to their cognitive skills.
Within 30 days?
Yes.
That is a tremendous statement to be able to make. And how is it, how do you measure it? I mean, you take a tool test, is like an MMSE or something like that for cognitive, to diagnose cognitive problems, and you take it before and you take it after. You just ask them how they feel. What are the parameters by which you've been able to determine that in 30 days you can get a response?
Well, we've actually done all those types of tests.
Okay, you use them all.
So we wanted to see, which did it affect? Did it just affect self-reporting measures? Did it just affect results on something like the MMFB? Currently, we have a quantitative trial that's a computer-based assessment tool called CogState, which literally measures down to the millisecond how your brain is changing in response to different questions in a trial that's over 3 months. So we've really done every type of trial that you can imagine, and in each type you can see the different approaches.
Fantastic. Now, with respect to this product called Prevagen, why don't you take a minute and give our listeners some phone numbers and some website information that they may need. Also, too, I know there are certain stores in our area that do carry it. Also, too, you should mention that you have a professional line that we now carry, and so the individuals listening to the show can gain from just giving us a call here at the office, because we can get the product to them. But talk to us about Prevagen a bit, and some additional information that they could get, as well as where they can get the product.
Well, the Prevagen profession, maybe we can start with that. Being able to have that carried in a healthcare practitioner's office is very important. That way, any type of medical issue that you have can be reviewed, it can be looked at, and in necessity, Prevagen might be able to be of assistance. That healthcare practitioner will know what you're currently taking, if you're taking anything. They can look at your science assessments, and they can make a recommendation on a product to try, and they can really make a good assessment. So that's probably my first choice, is to recommend people come into your office, Dr. Courtney, and speak with you. You know them, you've seen their medical history, they're new patients, just to catch up with that real quick. And the professional version is actually just a specific dosage that is stronger than is available in any other outlet. So keep in mind, if you're really concerned about addressing cognitive memory issues, and you know that you've already started to develop a problem, you want to start off with that higher dosage. But certainly at other outlets, go to your local health food store, you can ask for Prevagen. I actually don't have a list of people that are carrying the product in your list here in front of me. But generally speaking, if you prefer it, and if you have a regular health food store that you go to, you can ask them if they carry Prevagen. Most likely they already do. If not, they certainly can. And then, of course, our website is a very good resource. Go to our website at www.prevagen, that's Prevagen, Prevagen.com, and you can learn more about Prevagen right there. But I really recommend checking in with Dr. Courtney. He has a lot of expertise in the area, as you know, and there's a chance that you can go in and he can monitor your progress too. He can help adjust your dosage. He can help see before and after effects, and really, in his practice, give some report to how you're changing over time. But it's important to see the changes, and honestly, when it comes to cognitive issues, sometimes, if you sort of think this way, if your brain's not working right, you might not have the best self-awareness of the problems you need to solve. So that's why we often see a lot of benefits that spouses notice in one another, that they're taking Prevagen, that you might see in older relatives. So working with a physician or healthcare practitioner can really help you best manage your situation, your individual circumstances.
Outstanding. Thank you very much. We're going to get into some dosing here in just a minute and find out how much you take. And I think the 30-day thing was a real shocker to think that in a little 30 days you can have and be able to determine that memory issues can be reversed, corrected, and you just keep moving on from that point. I want to tell people who are listening to us right now, by the way, Mr. Mark Underwood will take questions if you have them. You know the number, 412-825-6262, 412-825-6262. Mr. Mark Underwood, how do you take Prevagen? How do you recommend it?
Well, we recommend it starting out with 1 capsule per day. The consumer strength is 10 milligrams, professional strength is 20 milligrams. But we recommend people take that in the morning. They can take that with or without breakfast. I generally take my Prevagen right after I brush my teeth. It's got it right there on the bathroom counter. We see the best benefits for people when they do take this in the morning. That way they're able to see the benefits throughout the day, the results be clearly seen, and then, of course, if you need more over time, if you're not getting the pop of the benefits that you're looking for, you can certainly increase that dose.
Now, it's one thing to know that you should be able maybe to say, hey, I think I'm thinking clearer. I'm having less memory issues now that I've taken the product. But we got these instruments like the MMSE, little questionnaires that you can document and be able to back up and be able to tell it, yes, you better believe you have improved because your MMSE test showed it was this when we started, and then 30 days later and 60 days later and 90 days later, you could go back and retest, and you should be able to see that response there. Is that right, Mr. Underwood?
Well, that's exactly right, yeah.
So out there, you just wouldn't be flying by the seat of your pants, folks. There are instruments used to measure how well you're doing, and we certainly have those instruments, and we would use them to make sure that you could see and plot out your improvements. In as little as 30 days, look for those improvements to occur. I think that's a wonderful way to follow using science in your particular instance, even though, hey, as long as you're feeling better and feeling sharper, that really is all that matters, but you'd like to be able to quantify it too. Wouldn't that be right, Mark?
Well, that's certainly that's why we do clinical trials, so that not everyone has to have it proven to them on an individual basis, but they can see across the majority of people the typical results. So what you're talking about with having those surveys in your office is fantastic. The more that can be quantified, generally speaking, the more people that can be helped. That's the most important thing to what we do here.
All right. We're going to take a short break, hoping that maybe in the interim you might dial us up to ask a question, Mr. Underwood. Do you have memory issues yourself? Do you have family members that you think have memory issues? And how should you intervene? The product called Prevagen, coming from a jellyfish, appears to provide a way of you being able to deal with this, and in no other way is it being dealt with. And we'll talk about more about that when we return. 412-825-6262 is the number to get into some of this discussion. 412-825-6262. We will be back in a moment.
This is Dennis J. Courtney, MD. Have you become confused about how best to manage your health? It's no wonder. It seems that every time you turn on the television or radio, another expert has yet another suggestion for you to follow that seems to be reasonable enough, but no matter how dutifully you follow the instruction, it just doesn't quite produce the results that you are looking for. If this confusion sounds familiar to you, give us a call at the Center for Complementary Health, where we'll make some sense of the confusion based on a blending of traditional and alternative medicine that we've been perfecting over the last 7 years. We offer metabolic nutrition testing, immune system repair, natural hormone replacement therapy, chelation therapy, cutting-edge allergy correction, and a host of other safe and effective alternative therapies.
Dennis J. Courtney, MD, is located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray. Phone 724-942-3002.
Want to help your family eat healthier? Instead of learning to disguise tofu in wondrous ways, how about some real nutritional power? If your family has the typical American palate for fries, pizza, and burgers, giving your family the blessing of good nutrition is a struggle. Fruit of the Spirit is the answer for your family's nutritional needs. Fruit of the Spirit is an all-natural, whole fruit puree made from fresh fruits native to the Holy Land with alkalizing minerals. Fruit of the Spirit was 5 years in the formulation, the work of a team of top nutritional experts with independent science to confirm its antioxidant power. 1 ounce a day provides the equivalent of 5 servings of fruits and minerals. Fruit of the Spirit is convenient, affordable, and delicious. Even your picky family will sing the praises of Fruit of the Spirit. Give your loved ones the blessing of good nutrition. Call 1-800-442-3793 for a special promotional offer. Fruit of the Spirit, a blessing for your good health. That's 1-800-442-3793. Call them now, 1-800-442-3793.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to AM Impact on Your Health here on KHB 620. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney today with you and a friend of ours, one we've come to know very well, who brings to you a message of really good promise and hope when it comes to memory loss issues. If you're in the baby boomer generation, as I am, the numbers of us are starting to become legions, and to know that there's some way that we can actually handle that which we are completely fearful of is the topic today, memory loss, and how you may take control and take charge of those issues by a product that comes from jellyfish called Prevagen. We have its inventor and prime researcher here with us today. His name is Mr. Mark Underwood. Mark, you still there, my friend?
Yes, sir.
Thought maybe, by the way, we're allowing you to give us a call with the remaining minutes, 412-825-6262, if you want to ask a specific question to Mr. Underwood. But we sort of thought that talking about some of the more personal issues that you've been able to see when your product has been used, and bring it right down to a human being who was suffering one way, took your product, and you noticed such remarkable changes, it even made an impact on you. What would that be?
Well, there's actually been a couple thousand. Not that necessarily I've seen firsthand, but we get a lot of emails, postcards, and letters sent here to our company addressing the different issues that people have resolved. So, just yesterday, a lady that has advanced dementia was been working with a doctor in Brooklyn, and sent a note over about how well her mom was doing on Prevagen, and actually ran out. She was taking the professional strength, so 20 milligram per day version filled in your office. Anyway, she was doing great on Prevagen. Then she ran out, and there was a lag in the time that they could get another spot or the bottle or whatever. And her mom started to have all kinds of memory issues again.
Slipping again.
And was probably off of Prevagen for about 2 weeks. Not worse than when she started off, but just sort of back to what was normal for her. Got back on the Prevagen 20 milligrams a day, and she sent us a note. She said, Mom's better again.
She made it back again.
Yeah, and it went into detail with her mom's specific memory lapses, and really quite a sharp contrast, to life, being the difference between being on Prevagen and then not being on Prevagen. So it's a remarkable difference that you can see, and a lot of people, they can see the results of Prevagen perhaps when they stop better than when they're just on it, because it's hard to be perceptive of your brain actually working better, and it's hard to sort of say, hey, I just feel good. When people feel good, they're not that observant. They're like, oh, I just feel good, I'm not going to worry about it. It's when they feel bad that they become very self-aware. So Prevagen helps you make you feel better. Sometimes you just don't notice what it's doing for you. But regardless of what you feel, these proteins affect your brain, that's for sure. But it is nice, I have to say, that you can feel a difference. You can see it in someone else. You can feel it in your own energy levels. You can feel it in your own capabilities. So it's worth a shot. It's certainly worth anyone that is in your practice, Dr. Courtney, that you think has any type of cognitive issue. Adding Prevagen to your protocol is certainly safe, because Prevagen doesn't have harmful interactions with other supplements, not even with other pharmaceuticals. So it's something that you can feel very comfortable and safe in knowing that other practitioners are seeing good results, no side effects, good clinical efficacy. So it's a very exciting time.
Well, I'd already mentioned to you the last time we spoke, because I talked to you afterwards, the only kind of success I've had, and by the way, I thought they were remarkable, is utilizing a modality called ECP. My listeners certainly know about it. You seem to be aware of it, where you could literally increase the amount of blood vessels by creating brand new ones. So I said to you, hey, what do you think? If we teamed up ECP with taking Prevagen, we should really expect to get some good results. You seem to think that might not be a bad thing at all to try.
Yeah, how is that working so far?
Well, we don't have anybody taking the Prevagen and the ECP, but in those few cases where, I got to tell you, I don't have many people coming in and telling me that they have memory issues. I have them coming in to tell me that their mom or their dad has them. And in fact, they're usually telling me, it's gotten to the point now where we have to think about having mom put in a home because it's not safe for her. And in those few cases where those were the reasons that they came to consult with me, I saw night and day turnarounds on using this process called ECP. So I got very excited in listening to you saying, you know what, that would be a great teaming up of modalities to take Prevagen, utilize it, while you were still making brand new blood vessels through this process called ECP. I'm going to guess that the two therapies combined together should have more of an impact than any one of the two alone. So that's what I intend to be doing as patients come in to see me and want to discuss memory issues. And I ran it by you, and you seemed to think, well, you know what? That just might do the trick, and we're going to try.
Well, it makes sense. Supplying blood to different parts of the brain is, I don't know, one of the most critical. I can't think of anything more important, to be honest with you. If blood doesn't go to your brain, that part of the brain dies. Period. There's nothing you can do to save it.
Well, that's right. And
if you can increase the blood flow, you certainly can deliver whatever you need to the area, and keeping that neurovasculature intact is absolutely critical. In fact, that's, people have vascular dementias because that blood flow is restricted, and that's another form of dementia that we didn't even get into tonight. And if we can keep that blood flow happening, get the right nutrients and right protective factors there to the brain, we're going to see a really, really big improvement.
Yeah, I think so, and that's where we'll be going with it here in the office. We're really excited about the opportunity to bring both into play. Now, taking this Prevagen, you say you take one a day, and then in as little as 30 days you can see some change. On a long-term basis, do you just keep taking one a day? Is that your recommendation, or do you?
Absolutely.
Okay, so what is the?
Brain with this protein.
Okay, so therapeutic strength and the maintenance strength turns out to be the same. You're going to be taking one a day, and if you've got such a remarkable turnaround that you knew it, I think it'd be very difficult to try to remove somebody from taking Prevagen when they knew doggone well how they felt before they started taking it. They know 30, 60, 90 days later how good they're feeling. I don't think it's much of a request to say that, you know what, maybe you should be taking this one a day forever. And that's what you recommend, is it not?
That's what the brain actually needs. You need to have a constant supply of this protein to keep the brain working well. So that means you have to continue on Prevagen if you want to continue to see those good results.
Outstanding. Anything new on the drawing boards, by the way, because you're a researcher. Anything that maybe you aren't ready released in prime time yet, but you've got to be doing research to find out maybe additional items that would work with the Prevagen, or...
We're currently working to assess Prevagen's effectiveness in other conditions.
Okay.
We have a clinical trial website called hopetrial.com. Many of your listeners can certainly look in there or pop in to see what's going on there, but a current trial that we are recruiting for is for people that have multiple sclerosis. So if you happen to know anyone in your practice or in your community that's interested in being a part of a trial that has multiple sclerosis, they can go to hopetrial.com. And it's a clinical trial that can be enrolled in from there, and it's actually a clinical trial that can be done online. So you don't have to, you can go into anyone's office. You're not poked or prodded. We use validated surveys for MS patients to see how well the jellyfish protein is able to address their symptoms and needs. Very
good. Hey, you do have a caller who's knocked on the door. Why don't we let him in the store? Come on ahead. You're with Mr. Mark Underwood.
Hey, Mr. Courtney, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
What's going on? I didn't hear the beginning of what the gentleman was saying. I'm sorry. I thought it was up in phones. What was he discussing?
Oh, he's talking about a product called Prevagen used in memory loss situations. Have you heard anything about the show today? Have you heard it?
No, but my father died 3 weeks ago when he had Alzheimer's and memory loss, so that's another story.
Well, that sure would be another story. Certainly, this would be an attempt to try to help any of those individuals that have memory loss issues. I'm very sorry to hear about your father-in-law, by the way.
Now, does that somehow do something prevent the ischemia in the brain or in the blood vessels?
Different mechanism. If you were listening, I think the mechanism here is it's cell death, which is the last phase.
It stops the ischemia. It helps the ischemia from being as damaging.
There you go. The ischemia is still present, but the final act of cell death is prevented by the use of this product. So that's pretty... Go ahead.
Is it on your site or?
No, it's not on the site. Well, we do carry the product in the office. It's called Prevagen.
Okay.
Here's what you need to do: go to Prevagen.com, and it'll bring you up to speed. Or, am I right about that? Prevagen.com.
Yep.
Okay. Go on to Prevagen.com and dial it up, and then you'll become a little more educated in this. You could also go to my website after about 20 minutes after this show is over and listen to this again in its entirety.
All right. Sorry to bother you.
No, not a bother at all.
Okay. Have a good day.
That's one of our frequent callers from someplace in Danville, Virginia. Mark, we know him very well. And normally he's already listening to the show and can come right in. I think he's a little behind and probably isn't able to ask a more appropriate question, maybe on another day. We got a few minutes left to go, and as I normally like to do, and by the way, we'll still open it up to those that have an interest, 412-825-6262. We'd probably be able to get you in here. But allowing you as the guest today to sort of bring this to a conclusion on your terms, let me let you take it for a bit and just expound upon how you want to close off our encounter today.
Well, what Providence does is certainly unique and it's new. We do protect with a money-back guarantee. This is something that was meant to encourage people to get started, see what kind of benefits they might have. Being able to start this younger in life is a goal, with a goal of preventing memory loss. Is a very good strategy. But really, you're not too old to start with Providence. So it's good for anyone at any age. It's completely safe. We have helped hundreds of thousands of people without harmful side effects across the country. And the perfect place is to give Dr. Courtney a call and find out about how you can get Providence Pro for yourself to address your issues, or perhaps through him to introduce the product to a parent or a loved one that you already see has memory loss. So the goal of our company, honestly, is to minimize the impact of brain health issues because they're very difficult. They're difficult for the people, patients, families. They're very expensive on an individual family basis. On a national level, they contribute a lot to our healthcare issues. We'd simply like to be able to make a big dent in those types of problems or worries, and honestly, give you something else to worry about in life. So,
Yeah.
I understand what it's like to deal with these different types of brain issues. I've got a family history that even gives me greater odds for things like
All right.
that. So.
Well, we got bongos in the background. That signals it's time to bring it to a conclusion today. And thank you very much, Mr. Mark Underwood. We'll be bringing you back. Ladies and gentlemen, give us a call at the office. We got the Pro line here. And if you want to come and see me, and we can look at some instruments to measure these issues, I'll be more than happy to employ them. Until then, this is Dr. Dennis Courtney with Mr. Mark Underwood saying so long for AM Impact on Your Health.
AM Impact on Your Health is sponsored by Dennis J. Courtney, MD, Director of the Courtney Medical Group, located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray, Pennsylvania. For more information or to make an appointment, call 724-942-3002. That's 724-942-3002 for Dennis J. Courtney, MD.